The Beavers proved the spark with Corey Hall taking over as head coach against Colorado wasn't a fluke.
Garrettson again keeps it, made a move and scores.
Taking a top 25 team to the brink last Thursday.
Tyner, touchdown.
This week, the Holland movement hits the road for Cal and the Golden Bears.
Over the middle, he's got a man wide open.
Coach Hall joins us over the next half hour to break it all down. Beavers Inside the Huddle starts now.
Everybody be a playmaker today. Let's go play, guys. Here we go. Here he goes toward the back of the end zone. Touchdown, Beavers!
Well, the Beavers won't be inside Reser Stadium, their friendly confines this week. They have to head down to California, Berkeley, for the Cal Golden Bears. But we're still right here. Welcome in along with Steve Priest. I'm Dusty Hare. We'll be joined by Coach Corey Hall here in a few short moments. Steve, one thing that we can look at, and it's obvious with Corey Hall taking over, there is a spark, there is life, there is enthusiasm.
Oh, enthusiasm. And it's genuine. Yeah. I mean, I think what you've got is you've got the real Corey Hall. This guy, everything you see, the enthusiasm, the excitement, the running up and down the sidelines, he plays this game because he loves this game. He coaches this game because he loves it. And it's infectious. It's contagious. Yeah. It is spread to these players. And it's gone for 2 weeks. And all they need to do is win one, and it'll go the rest of the season.
You know, one thing that I thought was really telling is on the broadcast of Thursday night's game, you know, they were talking about how, I think it was Brock Hewitt said, look, recruits see this. They see this coach running up and down the sidelines. And sure enough, earlier this week, 3 recruits commit like that to the Oregon State Beavers. They are watching, and they like what they see from this guy. How do you think that might translate to Corey Hall potentially keeping this job further?
Well, what you've seen so far is nothing but positive. There's one thing missing, and that's wins. And he can have the greatest next 4 games in the world, but if he doesn't win some or more than some, you know, it's going to be difficult. He's already made a position and a statement for himself that this is what he deserves to be, what he needs to be. Whether the time is right depends so much in the next few weeks. And the nice thing about it, Dusty, is the coaches are all in, the players are all in, Corey Hall's all in. And they could turn this into a really special thing in the next 6 weeks.
You just listed off 3 things. It's just Hall in now.
All in.
It's you know, that's all those 3 things just in one nice little bundle that we just call Hall in now as Bee fans. You mentioned the offense, and we saw the offensive numbers and their improvement over the last handful or last 2 games compared to the first 6. What do we think defensively, holding a Stanford team that's piled up yards by the fistful on the ground this year? They held them in check, not just on the ground, through the air as well.
Absolutely. And, you know, Bryce Love wasn't there. Everybody talks about that, but Stanford has a system. They always have running backs that can do it. Cameron Scarlett was not a bad player, that's for sure. He's an excellent player. The Beavers tackled better. They were more aggressive. The enthusiasm that we've talked about with Coach Hall, with Hall in, the players are. And they played tremendously well. They had a couple of situations where it hurt them at the end, but they were there. They were closer than I've ever seen this team this year to making big plays, a lot of big plays. And they'll happen the way that the enthusiasm and the ability is working right now.
On the offensive side of the football, we also saw the emergence of Thomas Tyner. Possibly his best game in an Oregon State uniform was against Stanford.
Without a doubt. And what I love about Thomas Tyner right now is he gives them so much speed and so much strength on the outside. When he makes that corner, as you see right there on his touchdown, and he heads upfield, that's a lot of size and great speed and great athletic talent. And he's the kind of guy that can turn this game around for the Beavers. And I like to see him playing more. I like to see the formationing they're using with him to get him the football. That really helps Ryan Null and the rest of the offense. It helps the passing game, everything.
It seems like the one thing he's found in that short drive up from Eugene to Corvallis was he found his pads and how to use them in the running style, because he's always had the speed. but you getting behind the shoulder pads is really something you're starting to see as a Beaver.
Well, absolutely, and like you just said, behind the shoulder pads, this guy is moving full speed ahead, and nobody wants to get in the way. A defensive back cannot take him on now the way he's running, and to get him the opportunity to get around the corner and get the shoulders square, he's going to hurt people, and Beavers are going to win with him.
We're just getting underway. The head coach of the Oregon State Beavers, Corey Hall, joins us live from Corvallis next. Beavers Inside the Huddle rolls on.
Beavers knocking on the door. Garrettson again keeps it, made a move and scores. Wow! And look at Corey Hall. The direct snap to Dahl, then the handoff, cut back middle, Tyner, touchdown.
I don't know if you're going to see any coach in college football get up quite like this.
He has changed this program in a couple of weeks.
Welcome back into Beavers Inside the Huddle as we roll on down to Corvallis, and we're joined by the head coach of the Oregon State Beavers, Corey Hall. Coach Hall, thanks for taking the time for us as we sit here now 2 games in as the head coach of the Beavs. What's the biggest thing that you've learned about yourself in kind of rallying the troops and being the head coach of the Beavs through 2 games?
First off, thank you for having me on. I'm happy to be back. But I would say what I've learned about myself is, and I don't want anyone to misunderstand what I mean by when I say this, but I was born for this, right? I was meant for these moments and this position. And I don't say that as a head coach per se, but just as a mentor and leader of young men. And so, I mean, I think what this overall experience has taught me is shown me that this is confirmation of what my real calling is. So, I mean, like I said, it's more than just the head coaching aspect. It's just the ability to really reach young student athletes.
Coach, you're also a heck of a defensive technician, and the rest of your defensive staff was sensational last week. That was Stanford you were playing. That is a system that's going to get 250, 300 yards rushing a game, 81 yards. Could you talk about that performance on defense, and particularly the formations and the personnel groups? Phenomenal to watch.
No, most definitely. And as I stated before and prior to playing, that's my brand of football, right? I mean, those are the defenses that I played in and the offenses that I'm used to playing against. So, obviously Stanford does a lot of, on the offensive side of the ball, things that I respect, as far as just old school football and what you see on Sunday. And it was a lot of short yardage football formations, right? But it's just that West Coast offense, gap schemes, power schemes, and they do what they do well. And so I was very excited about that game. But not to say that I'm not just as excited about every game. It's just that, that was Stanford, no different than the week prior to that. That was Colorado. And as I've stated before, moving forward, every team that you're going to play in the Pac-12, they're going to present some kind of adverse, situation as far as the style of offense and defense. But, I mean, that game right there was, again, in my opinion, what epitomizes football, college football, American football at its finest. It was a real game that was fought in the trenches. It was very methodical as far as situational football, and I thought my staff and our players handled it well.
On the other side of the football, you talk about a different style every week in the Pac-12. It looks over the last couple of weeks, especially against Stanford, the identity has returned to Oregon State football offensively. 41 rushing attempts and the use of formations and pounding the rock against a team that has a very stout front seven. What's kind of been the approach that you've been seeing in an evolution of the offense, getting back to what was so successful a year ago in running the football?
Well, again, it's just, time of possession, right? We got to win that battle, and I believe we did. So you got to control the clock, and the way you control the clock is to run the ball, right? You know, run the ball, play action, take shots, you know, offensive creativity. You've seen that. The brand of football that is established here is a tough guy, you know, offensive mentality. It's going to be physical, and we strive to make our fourth quarter plays just as physical and consistent as the plays that we are running in the first quarter. And so those are the goals, you know, and like I said, I have those pain principles. And, you know, you want guys to be extraordinary and not ordinary. And so to do that, again, you have to establish an identity, and the identity that I believe that you have to establish is one that is that states physical dominance. And so that's what, you know, the offense is trying to get back to, and not get back to, moving on and forward. That's the identity that not just myself, but the players want here. And that's what you're starting to see. You know, you see the shifts, the motions, the jumps, and things of that nature. And that's, to me, that's football, right? It's next level football. So everyone, they're enjoying it, they're having fun, and it's been really, really great to see.
Coach, you mentioned in there that what the players want and the creativity and so forth. One of the things that's happened this week, your players have started a petition to retain you as a coach. That's got to be tremendous. It's a great compliment. It's wonderful. Talk about that for a second, please.
I mean, and I haven't, I mean, outside of, you know, speaking to the media, I haven't really talked to the players about it. And, you know, and I will say this, I love those boys, and they're responding in kind, right? And it's just, again, it's very telling. When you have the best interest of the student athlete at heart, it's genuine, and they can feel that. And again, I've stated this before, it's a business though, right? And it's a great learning situation for each individual involved. And it does touch me, right? I mean, it makes me feel, as I stated before, it makes me feel like, well, I made the right decision as far as a career and a profession. But for me, I feel like it's more than that, right? This is a lifestyle. This is something that I didn't choose, it chose me. And, you know, when those things are involved, things that you can't explain, then, you know, people are going to react. So I love those boys and those young men. I can't call them boys. And I'm proud of them. You know, I'm proud of them.
We're just getting underway with Coach Hall as we turn the page on Stanford and take a look ahead at this week's challenge against the Golden Bears of California. Beavers inside the huddle rolls on. There's a live look at the Pac-12 standings as it is entering this week in conference play. Stanford on top. The Beavs still looking for their first win in conference play as we welcome back in the head coach of the Beavs, Corey Hall, down in Corvallis. Now, Coach, looking at this California team, Justin Wilcox, a first-year head coach, a former defensive coordinator. When you open up the film, are you seeing this Cal team, the strength of a Wilcox coach team, the defensive side of the football?
Most definitely, you know, and I have that belief, right? The team's going to take on that identity, you know, the identity of their head coach, and you can see it. You can see kind of the groundwork that was laid, you know, defensively there in Wisconsin. You see it's translated over there to the Cal Bears. You can see how they've started off. You know, they've played some tough games. You know, they've played Arizona tough there, the overtime. And, again, they had the big win over Washington State. So you can see it. I think he's doing a phenomenal job. And, you know, offensively, they pose some problems. They have some threats there, even though they've been injury-plagued, you know, like the rest of us around the league. And, you know, defensively, again, you know, they're gonna pressure you, you know, edge pressure, and they're gonna live and die with that. So, I mean, he's doing a great job.
Coach, their offensive side of the ball revolves around Ross Bowers, a quarterback who's, you know, near the top of the conference in a lot of categories, throws a lot of intermediate type of things. This Cal team doesn't lean on the run at all. It is a throwing football team with a couple of good wide receivers. That's your specialty, the defensive side of the ball. How do you defeat this guy, and how do you play this particular offense?
Well, you hit him. You hit them all. All of them. And, yeah, I mean, obviously, you got to play sound defense, okay? And first of all, again, you have to stop the run, right? Obviously, they're a pass-heavy team, but what you don't want is you don't want a team to come in and kind of have you off balance. So, you know, you're going to go ahead and play matchup defensively, and again, you know, when the opportunity presents itself, you're going to lean on them, and you're going to lean on them hard. And the thing is, you're going to be relentless in that. So defensively, that's going to be what we're going to do. You know, we're going to cover them up, and we're going to be physical, very physical.
Well, hitting them. That brings us to our Carrier Expert Pick, brought to you by your local Carrier Heating and Air Conditioning dealers. Carrier, turn to the experts.
Hey, Coach, you mentioned the hitting, and this guy, Jonathan Willis, he's been the linebacker that nobody's heard about much this season with Bright and Manasseh and how they're playing, but Jonathan has had great games. He was the leading tackler, co-leading tackler last week. He's experienced. He's in there all the time, and solid week after week. Talk about his play, please.
I mean, Jonathan, he's a great player. Yeah, he loves football, and you know, seeing him step up and starting to come into his own, you know, as a football player, again, it's very telling, you know, of his commitment and his passion for it. It was funny. I looked at him and I asked him, you know, we have this thing I asked for. I'll ask, and I'm not going to go into the details of what I asked for, but I asked him before he went in on a series, and on the play where he got the sack, he came back. He said, "Coach, I gave you what you asked for." So, you know, that's telling me that he's having fun, and he's comfortable, and he understands the defense. So, and again, the more reps he takes, the more series he's involved in defensively. You know, it's my speculation that Jonathan Willis is only going to get better, you know, and he's going to be one of those guys that, you know, he's talked about around the country. Why? Because he loves it. And the kid's a tremendous talent, right? And he has fun, you know, he enjoys what he does. And he likes hitting people. He likes hurting people, and I like that.
All right, we're joined with Coach Hall as we've got to get your keys to the game as you hit the road, take the show on the road against the California Golden Bears. All right, beautiful Memorial Stadium in Berkeley, California. Strawberry Canyon, they call it, will be the site as the Beavs head down to take on the California Golden Bears. As we welcome in Coach Hall, your first road game is down in Berkeley. What's it going to take, your keys to the game against Cal?
We're going to have to play great special teams. Okay, we're going to have to keep them offensively on, you know, playing on long fields. And, you know, offensively, we're going to have to play on short fields. So we're going to have to get turnovers on defense. You know, we fell short last week, and we're going to have to protect the football on offense. And we just have to stay patient and continue to, you know, run the ball and lean on people. And defensively, we still got to just fly around and play great situational football. Right? We got to go ahead and get them into third down situations and capitalize on it. And most importantly, man, the key to the overall key to the game is going to be to protect the ball, create turnovers, and have fun.
All right, Hall in, hits the road for the first time down at Cal. Good luck, Coach.
Hey, thank you very much.
Go Beavs.
All right, with that, we tell you about the coverage we've got right here on NBC Sports Northwest. Go Beavs every Friday at 9 o'clock. Talkin' Beavers is Wednesdays at 7. And then us, Beavers, Inside the Huddle, Thursday, November 9th, 10 p.m. showtime. All right, it's time now for our Keys to the Game, brought to you by your Northwest Honda dealer. Stop by your local Northwest Honda dealer or visit us online today at northwesthondadealers.com. All right, Steve, where do we start?
Establish the run again. Go back to what the Beavers do best, and that's run the football. You got 400 yards against Cal last year. I know this is a Wilcox team and it's supposed to play defense, but establish the run again. Let's see all these running backs get the yards they're supposed to. On defense, continue to formation like the Beavs have been doing the last few weeks. 2-man lines, 3-man lines, no-man lines. Put pressure any way you can. Blitz all the time. And last but not least, play 60 minutes, which we said before. Play 60 minutes with passion and heart. A little bit more, and they get a win. And that's what the Beavs need.
All right, I like those a lot because great minds think alike, especially for my number one, Pound the Rock. 30-plus rushing attempts on the ground, and I think you're going to have a great day for Oregon State. 41 against the Cardinal a week ago. Win the turnover battle is number 2. We talked at the beginning of the year about turnovers and how pivotal they would be. They're falling a little bit behind, but this is a turnover-prone Cal team, and then score a non-offensive touchdown, only 1 on the year for the Oregon State Beavers, and on the road, that can change your fortunes.
Oh, I think so. I think that turnover and scoring is really important. The Beavers haven't had that, as you mentioned, and you talk about those and you talk about the turnover battle. When the Beavs win the turnover battle, they win the football game.
All right, the California Golden Bears, the next up for the Oregon State Beavers. We'll be back with Coach Hall to talk all about it next week, Thursday at 10 p.m. right here on NBC Sports Northwest.